Hi, and welcome back to Peeky Boo Hauntings. I'll be your witchy host, Shy, and I'll be your guide to all things paranormal, weird, and spooky. Well, I was planning on doing a deep dive for this episode, but sadly, I'm having writer's block, which makes me sad because I was so excited to talk about the topic. But once I got to writing the script, everything went blank. I know when you have a creative block, trying to force it out does absolutely nothing. So I decided to call it quits for now. Instead, we're going to read some paranormal stories from Reddit, giving my brain a break since I've been going through a lot. Maybe then I'll be able to easily write the deep dive. But enough of all that. Why don't we just jump right into things with our first story? What is the most paranormal and unexplainable event you have witnessed? Back in 2017, I unfortunately lost my fiance to organ failure and went into a very deep state of depression. I've been there ever since, but I am making progress to fight back. Anyway, this night was at a convention in Novi, Michigan. 1 year later, in April 2017, I caught up with a friend and we decided to have some drinks at the bar. I had some good chats about upcoming conventions and stories about previous events. After a few Long Island iced teas, I was already pretty buzzed. The next bad idea comes along just a bit down the hall. I was actually on my way to a concert that was being held at the event, but I got pulled to another room with a friend where the convention was hosting a beer sampling session. You got to try 5 beers, one cup from each vendor, totally free, and then you rank each one from best to worst. Me, already being slightly drunk from hard liquor, thought that this was a great idea. 40 ounces of beer later, and I am smashed. Alcohol will make you think a lot of things are a great idea until the morning. Also, what kind of convention is this? Next, another as we're playing cards with a group of people who invited us into their table. Suddenly, somebody showed up with a bottle of Mountain Dew that had anything but Mountain Dew in it. I honestly do not remember anything at this point, but according to my friend, I drank what looked to be about another 8-ounce cup's worth. From this point, it's a blur, as I am blackout drunk. From what I've been told, I was brought back up to my hotel room and left alone, but when my roommate arrived, he claims he found me face down in the bathroom floor, passed out, with an empty pill bottle in the room. It was Benadryl. He called 911 and I was brought to the hospital where I woke up. Damn, you went too hard that day. It's a good thing he showed up when he did. I don't know how bad it is to take a lot of Benadryl, but still, I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't get into something even more dangerous. What I recall though, between the time I passed out and woke up, was the most vivid dream I had ever had in my life. It was an open room I was standing in, with people surrounding me. I don't know any of them except for one, my fiance. She embraced me for what felt like an hour, but for what I know could have been seconds. All I remember was telling her I loved her before seeing a light shine in my face and slowly waking up. When I woke up, according to the doctors and the EMT, I had to be revived as my heart may have flatlined. Thinking about it, it's entirely possible I may have died, and that was my first vision, past where I am now. I thank those doctors for saving my life, as well as my friend for calling 911 the second he saw me. Oh my God. It really was a good thing your friend found you when he did. You probably would have been dead, either because of alcohol poisoning or because of the Benadryl, or maybe probably both. And that dream probably wasn't really a dream. If you flatline, I'm pretty sure you're at least in the middle of dying. So I think you're in the afterlife and were reunited with your fiance. Also, I think those people that were in the room with you that you didn't know might have been people from your family. But for whatever reason, they were there to greet you or maybe help you get back into your body. Obviously, I don't know for sure. I only know that you went to the other side and got to see your fiance while you were over there, which probably means when it's your time, she will be there to greet you once again. Well, why don't we move on to our next story? What are some terrifying paranormal experiences that you went through in your life and which still kind of freak you out? I had a friend who swore he was a psychic. He read tarot cards for people and was pretty good at it, but I never believed in psychics. This will be important for later. Now, how are you going to say you don't believe in him, but recognize that he's good at tarot? That's weird. Or do you just believe in tarot card readings, just not that he's psychic? I was 18, living with my parents, and got up at 5 a.m. so I could work at 6. The stairs were in my parents' room and led down to the living room. What a weird layout for a house. I don't think I've ever heard of a bedroom having the stairs to go downstairs. That would be so inconvenient for things like getting ready for work and not waking them up, if they weren't up already. I didn't ever turn on the lights so I wouldn't wake them up. The stairs go down 10 steps to the wall, then turn 90 degrees and have 5 more steps. I started down the steps and saw someone standing in the middle of the living room in the dark. I assumed it was my dad because of the shape and size. As I was walking down, he walked across the living room and started up the steps. Then he got to the 5th step and turned towards me. I realized it wasn't my dad. It was like a solid shadow standing in the middle of the stairs. This wasn't a shadow on the wall. It was a shadowy figure and it was still walking towards me. And I'm sure you were ready to shit yourself. If you've never seen a solid mass that looks like a shadow, but doesn't at the same time, let me tell you, that is one of the scariest things. Mostly because your brain tries so hard to rationalize it, but you can't. Plus, it's solid, so when it comes at you, your body kicks into fight or flight. Because you also treat it the same as if you caught someone in your house that doesn't belong there. Shadow people are no joke. I tried to back up quickly without turning away from it. I slipped and fell on my butt. It went through me and disappeared at the top of the stairs. My heart was pounding. My mom woke up from hearing me fall and asked if I was okay. I didn't have time to explain, so I said I fell, but I'm okay. I went to work after. Around 8 a.m., working at the gas station, my psychic friend walked in. He asked if I was okay. I looked around and didn't see anything going on that was suspicious outside or anything and said I was fine. Why? He said that at exactly 5:15, when I was walking down the stairs, he was woken up because he could feel my fear. Before I could even tell him what happened, and I hadn't told anyone what happened yet, he told me that what I saw was a shadow person and it meant no harm. Since then, I believe he's psychic. See, you should have just believed him from the start. I was gonna say it would have stopped you from seeing a shadow person, but I think that was just a random person, maybe passing through. Still scary, don't get me wrong, but maybe it was just a spirit hanging out. Maybe it didn't even know you were there. Either way, I'm happy you believe them now. I know they're happy, and I really hope you let them talk about their crazy experiences. You might have fun listening to the things he's seen and done. It's an interesting life, living with abilities. All right, why don't we see what's going on in our next story? People who grew up in haunted houses. What's the craziest thing that ever happened? I actually grew up in a haunted house in northern Alabama. The crazy part was we only had one neighbor, and their house was also really haunted. But we both didn't know what each other was going through until we nervously asked him about it one day. I'm currently writing a paranormal book of mine and my family's experiences in that house. Here's a rough draft of one of my encounters. I'm not surprised at all that you both didn't know that the other was dealing with the haunting as well. Like, how would you go about that conversation? Oh, hi, my only neighbor. Do you also experience ghosts terrorizing your home? Because we're dealing with a haunting over here, and we want to know if we're not alone in this. Every time you go to talk about the paranormal, you're taking a chance that someone is going to think you are completely mental. I think that's why when you find someone that believes too, you almost let out a sigh of relief. You even said when you finally came out and asked, you were nervous about it. So, yeah, I think it's possible there are a lot of neighbors out there that are going through the same thing and don't even realize they have an ally right now next door. I couldn't have been more than 15. I was homeschooling during my high school years due to some bullying that occurred in my previous school. For my own personal PE sessions, I would jog back and forth and blast music in the living room, which we called the den, because it was a newer addition to the house, probably added sometime in the 80s or 90s, and it was completely built out of large wood planks on the inside. Floors, walls, stairs leading up to my sister Morgan's bedroom, and ceilings were all nothing but wood. I can't stop imagining you just running back and forth in the living room. Why didn't you just go outside and take a jog or something? I mean, exercise is exercise, but that just seems annoying to do. My sister and I were alone at the time, as everyone else in the household was either at work or school. My other sisters still attended public school. It was a beautiful day because I thought about having my PE jogging session outside rather than in the den. Okay, so you are allowed to go jogging outside. I also was kind of wondering if you were allowed to. Nothing against homeschoolers themselves, but I know a lot of the parents are kind of weird. Though, now that I think about it, you're only being homeschooled because of bullying, so I guess it wouldn't make sense anyways. So, everything I just said, never mind. But decided against it because I couldn't find my MP3 player. And I'm the type of person that needs to have music that I can focus on, so I don't focus on the feeling of dying from my asthma while I run. I totally understand. I can't stand going to the gym or even to work without my AirPods. Also, why are you jogging if it causes your asthma to act up? There are other things you can do for PE. As I start my daily routine of exercise, I have the music going, and every so often I hear someone shout my name. It was coming from the kitchen area, which was very close to the den. I tried ignoring it, but finally paused my music to listen. Maybe it was paranoia at the time, but I started to feel like someone was watching me. I would say the air became really thick, and I'm not one to lead into speculation before reason first. I mean, it could have been both, especially if you're feeling watched and hear your name. That is a thing that happens when you're feeling watched. It's almost like that feeling of someone being in the room with you, but of course, no one is there. After halfway through my exercise routine, my sister comes downstairs, fully dressed and ready to go out somewhere. I looked at her confused, and she let out a sigh and stated that she got called into work for a few hours, so I would be left at home, and to make sure I finished my schoolwork that I might have left for the day. I agreed, even though I was already done with the schoolwork for the week, as I couldn't get to sleep the night before, so I just stayed up and did the rest of the week's schooling. Damn, I wish school was like that. I would have felt more motivated to get it all done so I could have the rest of the week off. I did that in college until they told me to stop because I was getting too ahead of the class, which is why I know I would have done that in high school. I walked her to the door so I could lock it behind her, the music still playing in the den, as we said our goodbyes, and as she made the usual "I don't want to go to work" jokes comments. I stood on the front porch as she drove away, and then went back inside and locked the door. As I made my way back to the gym to finish my PE, I was completely shocked and terrified. Standing in front of me, just behind one of the couches, was a pale girl who had to be around 8 to 10 years old. She wore a white nightgown and had long hair, but a blurry face. It was something out of a horror scene. She wasn't even transparent. She was fully solid, yet not at the same time. In the split second that it happened, my brain and heart all together just froze and time stood still. Oh, that girl wanted you to know she was there. Since you were ignoring her before, she must figured, well, if you're not going to acknowledge me, I'll make you. That kind of ghost sighting will definitely make you feel like that. It's not a fun feeling for sure. Not even the moment after I saw her. She dropped to the floor, and I could audibly hear the thud as she hit the floor, and watched in terror as she quickly crawled from behind one couch to behind the one just beside it. Oh, fuck no. I've seen some shit in my life, but no, just no. I would have ran out of that house so fast and not went back in until someone came back home. Even then, I probably still wouldn't want to ever live in that house again. And it's even worse for you because you're homeschooled. You can't even escape from it by going to school. I was so scared and I squeezed my eyes shut and yelled, "Go away!" before running downstairs to my mom and dad's bedroom. They had a door leading outside if I needed to leave the house. I'm surprised you weren't out on the lawn or somewhere outside of that house after seeing that. I was crying and called my mom on the phone, and she was trying to get me to calm down and prayed with me over the phone. I stayed in our bedroom for a while, but I kept hearing the footsteps of someone moving around upstairs and messing with things. Eventually, I went out of the house and stayed in the yard until my other sisters came home from school. Oh my God, thank you. I was wondering if you were ever going to get out of that house. Because clearly that thing is messing with you and wanted to scare you. So getting out of the house feels safer in that instance. This is a story I don't usually share just because it is so outlandish that it seems unbelievable. To some, it might be, but for me, I know that it happened. And all these years later, I remember the exact details. It was one of the most traumatic paranormal experiences in my personal story. I do understand why you don't want to share this one because it does sound unbelievable. But the paranormal is full of unbelievable stories. It doesn't make them any less real. Still can't believe you stayed in the house as long as you did. I know I would have been out of that house as soon as I saw her crawling around on the floor. At least back then, when I was in high school. Actually, I'd probably still nope out of that room for a while, just to let my brain process what I saw. Well, I would say our last story might not be so creepy, but I got a glimpse of the first sentence, and I'm going to assume it's going to be just as creepy. But who knows? I could be proven wrong. So, why don't we get into it? What are some terrifying paranormal experiences that you went through in your life and which still kind of freak you out? I played a Ouija board with my sister and friends. The spirit we had contacted refused to speak to my sister, and we asked why. It said that they didn't like her aura attitude. Damn, how bad is your sister that the spirit isn't talking to her at all? Because they definitely know something you don't know. At the time, this made absolutely no sense, but now, in context, it blows my mind. For some reason, several of the entities that resided in our house wouldn't go into my sister's room, so I'd sometimes sleep in a room to escape the constant torment. Seriously, how bad is your sister? Even the spirits tormenting you won't go into her room? That's crazy. Now I realize they wouldn't go in because my sister had a lot of intent and power behind her words. Each night she'd tell the spirits and demons that they weren't allowed in her room and to stay out. So they did. My sister once told me that she'd always see shadows and creatures piled up at her door at night when I'd sleep in her room, and that is why she began shutting her door when she went to bed. I have no idea why or how she's able to do this, but I could never quite manage that myself. But even if they couldn't enter her room, they would linger in the doorway. But that's a story for a different day. To this day, even thinking about it makes the hair on the back of my neck rise. Oh, that's not scary at all. Girl, your sister is a witch. She's not bad. She's just protecting herself from the beings she can see. That spirit you were talking to was probably just mad at her because she wouldn't let them bother her. Also, you could protect yourself just like your sister. You just have to really mean it. Intent in your words can be a very powerful thing. Really hope you're not scared of your sister, because while she is powerful, she's not bad. Unless there is something else going on that you didn't talk about here. But from what I can tell, you have a witchy sister, and she's doing her best to protect herself and you from the things hanging out in your house. With that, guys, we've run out of stories for this week. I really hope you're enjoying the podcast, even if I scare you a little in the process. And if you are, enjoying it, that is, please consider rating and reviewing, or like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. It helps grow the coven. You can also help grow the coven by spreading the word. So tell your friends, tell your parents, tell your grandma. Actually, maybe don't tell her, just in case. Because if she's got a weak heart, I don't want anyone to be scared to death. But yeah, tell everyone you know. Oh, one more thing before we end today's meeting of the witches. You probably already know what I'm going to ask, but if you have any paranormal stories, please send them in. Even if you don't think it's good enough to send it in anyways. Let me be the judge of that. because I'm sure it's way more interesting than you think it is. So send in your cryptic stories, UFO stories, of course your ghost stories, or anything else in between. Even if you have a weird psychic encounter or tarot reading, when I say I want it all, I mean it. If you would like to send in your stories, you can email them to pinkyboohauntings at gmail. The email will also be in the show notes and the description below. But for now, the coven is adjourned. See you next time. Bye.